Okay guys, tribalwarsmap.com, hopefully on this page. First log into the world you want, go to 123, you're going to click up, first hide the messages, and then click where it says guest to log in, bring you to a Tribal Wars page which you can authorize. So we're back. As you can see, I've got a map that I've already made up. Instead of deleting everything in case you've got your own notes and highlights already, simple hack is to come up to the URL just before it says 123 or the world that you're on. You can change it to anything you want. I use the letter A and reload the page, and it will give you a fresh, I say fresh, I've already done it on this one as well. Let's go to B123, and it should give me a fresh map for you to use. The advantage of logging in is that it will save it for you, that you can always return, as you saw from the previous two maps. And then we can start setting this up. So the first setting I'm going to point out is this default coordinates. It's currently at 500, 500, but you're right in the center of the map. We're going to scroll to My Villages on this world, right up in the top corner here. If we click on the settings again, you'll see it will allow you to set your coordinates as the default. We're going to do that, and what this allows is, if we refresh the page, it will bring us right back to where we are. See, we're not in the middle, right back where My Villages are. The first setting we're going to set up. After that, we're going to click on the mini-map setting down here. To be honest, I find these quite weird settings. I always change it to the 5+1, which is the Tribal Wars size, which will make this larger, so you can actually see what you're highlighting and use it as a tool for finding villages. I always put this between 60 and 80 on both settings, just to keep it uniform and in the corner. Then we're going to go on hotkeys. I don't think my software will allow you to see this, but we're going to change Shift, Alt, and Control. And currently they open up the village pages. So if I clicked on a village, normally you've got the links, but if I hold Control, it's going to open up a new tab for me, which is the player's village that wasn't my own. But it will open up the village page. What we want this to do is to highlight, and in the drop down there's a highlight village option. You can now see it's changed. I'm going to highlight the player, and on the third one we're going to highlight the tribe. Find it? Where's it gone? There we go. That's 3 settings there. Other than that, I don't think you need to change any other settings. There is a colours one you can change if you don't like the default colours. I always leave it the same, that's fine. So now we can open the highlights tab. You've got a favourite colour which you can use, which will, anytime you use a quick hotkey to highlight something, it will use your favourite if you've got it ticked. Quite useful. So the first thing I'm going to do, use the tribe colour, highlight my own village, find it, up here, right way, that's village. If I hold, as we say in the settings, we hold Alt and click on the player, good. Highlight all my villages, see on the minimap, and we're also going to hold Shift and highlight our tribe. I'm going to change the colour of our tribe, the lighter blue. I'm also going to scroll out. You can either do it up in the top corner up here, scroll, or you can use mouse wheel. I like to nearly always have it on this view and not have the mini map in the corner. Most of what I'm doing is looking on the larger scale when I use Tribal Wars map. So we're going to do that. You can see the rest of the tribes down. You lot, still Dylan and Rosie mates, they're all down in that area. Okay, let's add. We're going to add a new group next. We're going to have this as our enemies, so you can separate tribes or types of highlights, so that you can then, if you untick them, it takes the highlights off the map. It can be useful if you're trying to look for certain things and you don't want to have a new map every time, and you don't want to change all your current setup. We're going to have an enemies. We're going to set the default group to our enemies. We're going to change our color. One thing I didn't manage to note is you've got all these colors on here. You've got your tribal wars colors up the top. For other colors, such as orange, which I like to use quite a lot, you can add a quick color. You'll add it to the bottom down here. Pink's another one I quite often use. Green as well. And now they'll stay there permanently. Useful. We're going to set our favorite color to orange here, just while we highlight tribe. This is one of the bigger tribes that are in my area. And as you can see, they're in their own little group. You can hide them if we want. Good news about groups, that in this little drop down, I don't know if you see these drop downs actually because of the way my software is set up, but hopefully they do. You click on the cogs and you can change the color very simply for the whole group. So if you've got lots of villages instead of tribes, you can change the whole group color. But the more important one is this BB code member list, which will give you the BB code. More important when you're highlighting villages, because you can get a village list. You can select the whole list and copy and paste. It's useful. I'm going to show you later how to use this to create a fake script or a farming script. And we can get all the villages this way and then put it into the script. That should be it for the highlight section. A quick section on markers. I don't really use these. We have an add marker in the box here, which we can use. We'll put a little icon around that village. We can see it up here. We can also mark enemy village, for example. Puts the little black and white ring around. I don't really use these. They can be useful. Maybe you've got a preference for them. I don't. They're the only other highlights. There is this set main, which will put a marker down. And what it does, it changes this little box up the top here to your main village. So if you scroll away and you want to find your village real quick, you can click on the main up here, drag it straight back to where you can center it around you. Allows you to quickly choose the village list of your villages. Can be useful. Doesn't do a whole lot. Only other markers that are worth looking at are the start and destination that you can set. Quite often I'll leave it set to my main offense village as the start, because then whenever you're looking around, it will show you at the bottom there the travel times and distance to the village you're highlighting. It can be quite useful, especially if, say, you've got an incoming train from someone. I know there's tools within the game that do this, but you can look to see, like, if they have closer villages, for example, what the timings are for them, and if that window has passed for them to put more nobles on the end of their train, or like pre-nukes or anti-snipes. It allows you to work out times for stuff, essentially, which is quite useful. It's also up here. So if I set one of these as the destination, we then have this list of times that we can also see is in the pop-up. Useful feature. The other feature that this is also useful for is drawing lines. We have a use start and destination, which will allow us to draw coloured lines. Red for this, maybe my shot. Then when we take this away, says. Leave it. There we go. You'll see a red line in there. I'll make this a bit bigger. Color maybe yellow. Take the destination away. Saved it again. Try one more time. There we go. Unset that. As you can see, there's a yellow line there now. It can be useful for all kinds of drawings on the map. If you want to draw front lines against like big tribe versus big tribes, particularly in the late game, if you're using this, it can be useful to draw a front line, and then you can see over time. You know, if you check it once a day or once a week, you can see the progression of the front line moving. That can be quite useful to see. I'm going to get rid of these for now. I don't think there's any other highlights that are worth talking about. Any other things? Other than circles, I guess. Circles have a lot of usage. We'll set one on our main to start with. It'll put this blue circle around. Personally, I like taking the background off. I don't find it impedes the other highlights if it's too dark. One of my favourite features with this is normally, if say this big tribe, we didn't have this player sitting right next to us, for example, we could see there's the distance separating us. I'd often find, and just like lines where you can set front lines and stuff like that, we can use the radius to sort of show how close people are to us and where the closest village is. So if we're worried about which villages are close enough to noble us, we can set lines and set circles to sort of gauge proximity to our key villages. These circles are also good for church radiuses and watchtower radiuses. So on a watchtower world, which this is, it'll allow us to see, I can't remember what the maximum radius is for a level 20 watchtower. I think it's something like 15. 100% sure on that one. But if it was, we can see we're covered all the way out to here. So anything that attacks us in this range, we're going to instantly see what they're sending. Useful, and how much of it covers on ours, and so we can noble all the way back up here and we'd be covered. There is one more thing with circles, which I'll show you. I'll show you that the last thing to is what circles are best for in a bit. I'm going to move on to the filters next. And there's a lot of things I filter for. The first thing we're going to do, there's tons of barbs that we don't care about on our default filter. We want the abandoned status to be not abandoned, so that it removes all the barbs from our map. Just declutters essentially. On this world, there's a points ratio on who we can and can't attack. I think it's dropped because most players now, the world's old enough now that I think it was only 20-1 for 30 days. Something I do like to do is, I'm on 30,000 points, so if it was a 20-1 ratio, I can't attack anything under 1,500 points. So I usually like to set that. That gets rid of all the newer players sitting on the rim, all the people who are inactive. We can just focus on who matters. You can either hit enter or click save to save these. Next one we're going to build is, let's go for the barbarian one first. The only thing we're going to set on this is to set it to abandoned. This will only show us barbarian villages. It can be useful. For example, if we were to set a circle, set it to like 10 fields. Let's say we want to farm a 10-field radius, right? And we want every barb that's in this radius in our loot assistant. An easy way to do this, we use the circles. We can get a village list using the circle. We can either select the list, if we hit the BB code, for example, we can select the list, copy the village list, and then create a fake script, which I'll show you in just a second. And then we can run through the fake script and we'll be able to scout all of the barbs and get them into our loot assistant. This is where this is really useful, because then as you get more and more LC, you can increase the radius and add more and more of the barbs. Excuse me. Let's just change the highlight on this because we've got orange used. Make it that green color. What we can do, there's an option on this cog that allows us to color the area village list. And if you watch closely on the map, if we use the highlight list and click highlight all, there's a little pop-up, click OK, it will highlight all the villages within the radius. It can be useful. It also puts it in our group, our default group, which is now enemies. I should have made another group for barbs. But now we have that highlighted, so if we changed our filter back, for example, I haven't actually got the, or if we turned our filter off so we can see all our highlights, you can now see all the barbs are highlighted along with all our enemy highlights. That can be useful if you're trying to track what barbs you have got in your loot assistant and what ones you haven't. Especially if, turn this back to setting. Say we want to increase our radius, especially if you're on the rim and there's new barbs spawning, this can be quite useful, because now we can see there are extra barbs here, or if somebody goes inactive and then barbs out, show up this way as well. And we can add them either manually, or we can use this script again to re-highlight. And they'll be added to our list, and we can just, again, add them to our loot assistant. Create another filter. I'm going to have inactive for this one. It will help us find inactive players. So that, you know, maybe we want to farm them or we want to conquer them. First thing we need to do is take out all the barbs. And then there's a setting here which is the minimum number of hours since the last activity. If we set that to, sometimes I have it at 24, sometimes I have it at 48 hours. And as we can see, if we have it at 24, we can see there are all these players. Let's find this guy's got 3,000 points in 2 villages. I guess he's lost a village somewhere. Main village. It says under his name in the second section, it says last activity 2 days, 6 hours ago. We can do this for. We can also set up points. Say we only want to conquer villages that are 1,000 points or higher. We can filter down. We can filter to 3,000. We're looking for any big villages. This guy, he's been inactive for 3 days, 4 hours. For us, he would be a great target to go for because we're probably not going to meet any resistance. We only have to clear what troops are in his villages, and we should get he's got 13,000 points in 4 villages. That's an 8,000 point village and a 4,000 point village nearly. Easy way to find easy expansion targets. Or farm, because there's probably 3 days worth of resources in that village as well. So now, show all of them. A good filter there. The next filter we're going to have is ODD, for players who have been attacked recently. Switch over to that filter as well. Set to not abandoned. And this time we're going to have, there's 2 settings here, which is minimum number of hours since last ODD. We want the maximum this time. We want players who have been attacked in the last 24 hours. As you can see, our friend here, Kiana, she was attacked earlier. Really funny attack. But now she shows up on this map, as well as our close neighbour, him. He was attacked 3 hours ago. And if we open up this, we have a graphs and links here. This is really important, this part of the tool. It shows his points growth. Here's ODA here. He's done a lot of attacking recently. We can also see he's heavily under attack at the moment as well. And the good thing about him, if I put him in another highlight, the green, for example, is most of his villages are down here and spread out. You can imagine he's getting attacked all over the place down here. Probably not being attacked up here because nobody up here is going to want to attack him. Everybody's quite small. But this could present an opportunity for us because we know his troops, even if he's building troops here, he may be sending them back to protect his main cluster. And we're close enough proximity that we could probably sneak a couple of these 3k villages away from him. Unfortunately, neither of us are in any position to do that, but you can see the utility of having a filter for this. Sometimes I've been over the barbarian one where you could set, say, 3,000 points for barbarians. Sometimes I have a filter for this, just in case. You see here, there's 10k point villages where a player's gone inactive and barbed out, or been banned and barbed out. Having a setting separate from your barb filter so that you can filter for points as well is quite good for spotting big opportunities to take free villages or weakened villages. Can be quite useful. And sometimes I'm going to call this one threats because that's what I normally call them. If you're, especially when you're starting up on the rim or in a world, or even just in general, it can be useful. You may want to filter for just tribes or big players, essentially, that are going to threaten your villages, essentially. We have a setting here which is tribe status. We can set that to inner tribe if we want. Most good players, most big players are going to be inner tribe. That gets rid of all the abandoned and all the rim villages, all the inactive villages, essentially. If you think about what threatens your village, it's usually when villages hit 2,500 points or higher, because then they're capable of producing nobles from that village. We're going to set that one in the top setting here, minimum village points. Take out all the useless villages that aren't going to be any threat to us. You also want to put player points here. In this particular scenario, I'm on 30,000 points. I don't think a 10,000 point player even threatens me here, because they're going to have 2 villages at most, and neither of them are going to have a full nuke, and so I'm just not in any danger. We can take those players out. Tribe points. If you're doing the big sort of end game tribe versus tribe scenarios, you may want to set this at like 100,000 points or 1,000,000 points and filter out all the small tribes so you can see who's actually relevant. I'm not going to do that one on here. And you can also make a filter for ODA for people who are attacking. The problem with this one is you'd like it in an ideal world to show you which village was doing the attacking, and it doesn't do that. It just shows you in general which player is attacking. But that can be useful, you know, like if you're sometimes it's just nice to know who's been attacked, like who's sent their troops out and who's worth checking, because you may want to look at the graph and click the graph, and you click on ODA and you'll see, okay, this guy did some attacking today or yesterday. He might be worth going after because he can't retaliate against us. That could be useful. As I said, I don't really need a filter for that. I can just manually look at people in my area who are relevant and see whether their ODA is shooting up. And if it is, they're probably low on troops right now. Could be a good opportunity for me to dive in. Covered a lot of the other things. Close these down for a minute. Under this More tab, we have a few features. Most are not really relevant. They have their uses, but I don't really use them. There's a map screenshot, which, to be honest, I don't ever use, but it gives you a nice link down here that's a screenshot of this. It can be useful for forums and Discord, and the mini-map one that's more useful. We're going to have to scroll in a little bit to get the mini-map up. But you might be doing some strategy on a tribe level, or you want to show something based like this, where we've got a big orange enemy here and something going on over there. Bring up the mini-map screenshot, get an easy link, copy and paste that, and use it where we want to use it. That can be quite useful instead of using Yazo or some other image tool. Ah yes, one more thing about these pop-ups is there's a link called historical data. You can use on the player. It's not the most relevant on the player because you've got all the information anyway when you hover on them. With the tribe historical data, it will bring up a window which looks like this, and you can see there's a lot of information on this page. This is just a general overview that you first see. The most important one on this page is the activity. You can filter and see their tribe active. Their least active player 7 hours ago, which is nothing, so I'm not going to look at that one. The points page is interesting because as we can see right here, it shows up in red somebody who's been attacked today on Thursday. On this day was Thursday. Oh God. Okay, today we can see Krakra has been attacked and lost a village essentially. Can be useful for identifying players to go after if they're losing villages, if they're inactive. You know, he made 75. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe it was minting coins or something that day. Maybe he's gone inactive and being internaled. But it gives us a clue of who to research further, right? Who are we looking at? Who do we want to know more about? Not too relevant with this tribe, but worth knowing. Again, this is the ODA. This is where we get to see which player is doing most of the attacking at the moment. Get the total, and we can see Latchkey, who was that guy that was next to me on my map. He's gaining a lot of ODA at the moment, which means he's busy. He's being attacked, he's doing a ton of attacking, gaining tons of ODA. We could certainly look at annoying him, just pinching stuff off his backline, or his rim cluster up by me, because that's probably not where the action is. He's probably moved troops to where the action is going to be. We can capitalise on that information. Again, ODD is very similar. See who's being attacked. I guess that Krakra could be inactive and being cleared by his own tribe, but definitely he may be, along with Latchkey, being attacked. Here is Latchkey, there's Latchkey. He's been hit a little bit on Tuesday and again today. Quite useful information. We can also see ODS on this page, which is useful. It shows you who's doing the most supporting in their tribe. Not a great deal of supporting going on, despite all that ODD we saw. People being attacked, there's very little supporting going on. We know Latchkey's troops are probably his own that he's lost. Really useful because if he's reacting to us, we know he's moved all his own troops. Performance, just an overview of all three. Or say, not really that useful. Conquers is useful. Who's being conquered and where villages are trading hands. All going in one direction by the looks. The new owner. Member changes is also useful. Really useful in this case because they've got a sister tribe called Carp DM, Benny Vici. We can see a couple of players have moved from C to V. Quite a lot. There's a lot of movement going on there. It can be quite useful, especially in a world where there is the setting that allows you have to wait 3 days before you can support your new tribe or have support from, I can't remember how that rule works. But this can be useful to see who's moved recently. Anybody who's moved today, for example, you could then target because you know they're not going to be able to provide support or receive support or whatever the ruling is. whatever the settings are. That can be quite useful. That's enough for this tool. One more little thing I'm going to show you. I think covered everything else. Just checking my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, so the last little thing is this highlight mode at the top here. And I'm going to turn my highlights off, I think. Just so that we've got a plain map for this. And we see the first option is activity. I never use these, by the way, very rarely, but it's worth showing you because so you know what they do. First one is activity. I think red shows inactivity, grey is active. So you see a lot of like 26 pointers on the rim. They're all red right now. It's not a great tool. This is a great feature on this. Again, points is players who like it takes the world average, I think, and so the big players who can conquer multiple villages a day are going to show up red. You know, these big players in the core are going to show up red because they're gaining so many points, and then people on the rim are going to be white. So you get little heat spikes like this on the rim where Latchkey is. He's a big player and can grow faster than people around him. Conkers is quite useful, I guess, but we have our own filters for this. Or did I show you a filter? There is a filter here which is maximum number of hours since conquered. If you put that as 24, it will show you. You could create a filter where there's it will only bring up the villages that are conquered in the last 24 hours. It's basically these red ones. See, this was conquered 8 hours ago. Yellow village that I conquered 2 days, 22 hours ago. It can be useful. See who's conquering where the action is, especially when it's late game. There's tribe versus like 2 tribes left or 2 alliances left. It can be useful. See where people are focusing their energy. The attack highlight mode. We said Latchkey's doing attacking right now, so he's bright red. I haven't attacked for 2 days, so I'm yellow. Goes the same for OD and support. I don't waste much time on these. Growth. Basically who's active and inactive. It's really not that useful. Tribeless could be useful, I guess, if you're in the core here and you see players like this. You know, we could filter it for the threats, essentially. You know, big players who are threatening. We took the oh no, that's fine. Inner tribe. If we took this off, click the right button, so that it will show any player and we can see these players are tribeless, right? So if we turn back out, it's because the screen's not big enough. So yeah, we can see the big players who are tribeless. Maybe you want to recruit them if you're a tribe leader, or maybe you want to target them because they haven't got support. And be useful, I guess. We can also do this with a filter. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Tribal Wars map.